World War II was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945, involving nearly every major world power. It was one of the deadliest and most destructive wars in human history, resulting in the deaths of approximately 70 to 85 million people, including soldiers and civilians. The war fundamentally reshaped the geopolitical landscape, leading to the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers and setting the stage for the Cold War. The roots of World War II lay in the unresolved tensions following World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed severe economic and territorial penalties on Germany, leading to widespread resentment among its people. The economic hardships of the Great Depression further destabilized Europe, creating fertile ground for the rise of authoritarian regimes. Adolf Hitler, who became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, capitalized on nationalist sentiments, promising to restore Germany's former glory. He rearmed the country, violated the treaty's terms, and pursued aggressive expansionist policies. Meanwhile, Benito Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy sought to expand its influence, and Japan, under Emperor Hirohito and military leaders, sought territorial expansion in Asia. Germany's first major move was the annexation of Austria in 1938, followed by the occupation of Czechoslovakia's Sudetenland. Britain and France, hoping to avoid another war, followed a policy of appeasement, allowing Hitler to expand without immediate consequences. However, when Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939, Britain and France finally declared war, marking the official start of World War II. The early phase of the war was dominated by Germany's rapid military successes, a strategy known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. This involved swift, coordinated attacks using tanks, aircraft, and infantry to overwhelm enemy forces. After conquering Poland, Germany quickly turned west, invading Denmark and Norway in April 1940. By May, German forces swept through Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. Paris fell in June 1940, forcing France to surrender. With most of Europe under German control, Hitler set his sights on Britain. The Battle of Britain, July-October 1940, saw German air forces, Luftwaffe, launch massive bombing raids to weaken British resistance. However, Britain's Royal Air Force successfully defended its skies, preventing a German invasion. Meanwhile, Italy joined the war, expanding Axis influence in North Africa and the Mediterranean. In the east, Hitler broke his non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and launched Operation Barbarossa in June 1941. This was the largest invasion in history, with millions of German soldiers pouring into Soviet territory. The invasion led to brutal battles, including the Siege of Leningrad and the Battle of Moscow. Despite initial gains, German forces faced fierce Soviet resistance and the harsh Russian winter, which slowed their advance. While the war raged in Europe, Japan expanded its empire in the Pacific, occupying Manchuria, parts of China, and Southeast Asia. The United States, though initially neutral, placed economic sanctions on Japan. In response, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, destroying much of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. This attack led the United States to declare war on Japan, bringing it into the conflict. Soon after, Germany and Italy declared war on the U.S., turning the war into a truly global struggle. The U.S. played a crucial role in turning the tide of the war. In the Pacific, American forces began pushing back against Japanese expansion, winning key battles such as the Battle of Midway in 1942. In North Africa, the Allies, led by Britain and the U.S., defeated German and Italian forces in battles such as El Alamein and Operation Torch, driving Axis troops out of Africa. In the Soviet Union, one of the most critical battles of the war took place. The Battle of Stalingrad, August 1942, February 1943. German and Soviet forces engaged in a brutal months-long battle for control of the city. In one of the deadliest confrontations of the war, the Soviet Red Army ultimately encircled and defeated the German forces, marking a turning point on the Eastern Front. By 1943, the momentum of the war had shifted in favor of the Allies. In the Pacific, U.S. forces launched an island-hopping campaign, systematically liberating territories occupied by Japan. The bloody battles of Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and Saipan demonstrated the fierce resistance of Japanese forces, who often fought to the death rather than surrender. In Europe, the Allies launched Operation Husky in July 1943, invading Sicily and then mainland Italy. Mussolini was overthrown, and Italy surrendered in September, though German forces continued to fight in the region. Meanwhile, Allied bombers intensified their attacks on German cities, targeting industrial and military sites. On June 6, 1944, the Allies launched D-Day, the largest amphibious invasion in history. Over 156,000 troops landed on the beaches of Normandy, France, beginning the liberation of Western Europe. After intense fighting, Allied forces pushed German troops back, liberating Paris in August and advancing toward Germany. On the Eastern Front, the Soviet Red Army launched massive offensives, recapturing lost territories and pushing into Germany. In early 1945, Soviet forces reached Berlin, leading to the final battle of the war in Europe. Hitler, realizing defeat was imminent, committed suicide in his bunker on April 30, 1945. Germany officially surrendered on May 8, 1945, known as Victory in Europe, VE Day. In the Pacific, the war continued as Japan refused to surrender. U.S. forces captured the islands of Iwo Jima and Okinawa in early 1945, but at a tremendous cost. To avoid a costly invasion of Japan, the U.S. decided to use atomic weapons. On August 6, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, killing tens of thousands instantly. 3 days later, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Japan finally surrendered on September 2, 1945, marking victory over Japan, VJ Day, and the official end of World War II. The war had devastating consequences. Cities were left in ruins, economies were shattered, and millions were left homeless. The Holocaust, in which Nazi Germany systematically murdered 6 million Jews and millions of others, was fully revealed to the world. War crime trials, such as the Nuremberg trials, were held to prosecute key Nazi leaders. The war also led to the creation of the United Nations, UN, in 1945, aimed at preventing future conflicts. The rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union led to the beginning of the Cold War, which shaped global politics for decades. European colonial powers weakened, leading to the decolonization of Africa and Asia. The war also accelerated technological advancements, including radar, jet engines, and nuclear weapons, changing warfare forever. World War II reshaped the modern world, and its consequences are still felt today. It remains one of the most studied and discussed events in history, a testament to both the horrors of war and the resilience of humanity.